welcome back to Week 5 live from Berlin, where we're starting off the second half of the LEC Spring Split. Patch 9.3 has hit the rift, and with it came the rise of SK Gaming and Fnatic, who are facing off in a monumental matchup to start off the day. I'm Daniel Drakos, here with the analyst duo, Indiana Froskurinn Black and Andrew Vedius Day. Welcome.
Hello. It says dynamic duo, sir.
Dynamic. Ooh, because we are dynamic. We play flex queue. We play duo queue.
I don't know where he's going with this.
We climb that ladder. It's because we're so dynamic and flexible.
All right, Vedius.
Ask us anything.
I'm really glad you're alive. You're full of energy.
I'm ready.
Well, I got questions. We're ready. Yesterday, we closed out the first round robin of the LEC 2019 Spring Split, and G2 Esports are still undefeated in first place. Vedius, quick fire round. Are G2 good?
G2 are, in fact, good.
Nice. Well, today we're starting the second and deciding half of the regular season, and before we embark on the playoffs with our brand new format, remember, you can get your tickets for the spring finals in Rotterdam, where the 3 best teams will fight for the LEC title. Now, the pre-sale for the event will begin next week, the 22nd of February. For more information, visit eu.lolesports.com/Rotterdam.
Rotterdam, very pretty, but just so you guys know, that's not where the event is taking place. That bridge right there, there's not going to be any League of Legends.
No, we're doing it back. It's in the back of an alley, 5-on-5.
We're going old school.
We're going old school.
Very excited though. Rotterdam, very beautiful city, and we will be going back there after what was a pretty epic final last time.
Absolutely, and I'm hoping that we can recreate some of that, and we will find out. But for now, focusing back on the action in front of us, 9.3 hit the rift, and it came with a lot of changes. I think most of them pretty accurately predicted by both of you, but let's talk a little bit more about it. 80 carries rising up once again.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see more crit 80 carries in the rift. Once you take Lucian and Ezreal off the board, for a long time it was Kai'Sa that kind of fell into the meta. We still saw some Sivir last patch, but right now, things like Jinx, things like Caitlyn, really rising in popularity, and seeing these kind of champions makes me really happy, because I just love them.
And with it comes the rise of teams like Fnatic and SK, who are really utilizing those types of carries. We saw Crown Shot taking out the Jinx. You saw Sivir on his comfort pick up the Sivir. So it should mean that maybe the standings get mixed up as this patch happens just in time.
Can we also just talk about the amount of Sylas bans that we saw yesterday? Because he was banned in every single game.
We don't know if they're banning him against the other team or against their own team. Like, no one is playing it. I don't want you feeding.
Saw you practicing in solo queue. Didn't look hot. We're going to ban it away from you, but we just don't want you to play it. Top, mid, jungle, wherever. We don't want to see it. Now, of course, interesting to see how these teams have been making the climb with the new patch, but after going undefeated in the first half, G2 Esports are rising up as one of, if not the most dominant lineup we have ever seen in Europe. And of course, anytime you talk about dominance, you have to talk about Fnatic in summer 2015. And as we look at these stats, G2 on a pace to break a lot of these records.
Yeah, what's really important to notice here is that when Fnatic went on that 18-0 streak, when they were that dominant, they didn't even set the league records. You can see they were second in terms of their major deficit. They were only third in terms of their damage per minute. Right now, G2 Esports is on track to smash every single record and more that's even not on this list.
And it kind of feels like this moment where you want to open up this conversation, because right now, even though they're not 18-0 yet, they could be that they just lose the next 9 games and then this storyline disappears. But you have this snapshot where you can say, we're starting to see the next rise of an EU dynasty. We've never seen a team this dominant before, and it's kind of nice to be on board for the ride as it's happening.
And when we talk about dominance, the other thing that I will have to ask about is wouldn't we see a team this strong? Is this just our all-pro team?
It is for me. I look at this roster, and if I could pick the 5 best players in Europe, these are the players that I would pick. I feel like that you just have stacked talent in every single role. Right now, I feel like that they bring a huge amount of flexibility everywhere, and I was skeptical of Perkz at the beginning of the split, but the fact that he brings his mid lane talents into the bot lane, as well as being a good bot laner, I think just ranks him as the best right now.
And when we originally did this in rehearsal, this is where I insert my point. Like, come on, guys, pump the brakes. What about Upset? What about Ignite? I went back and I watched that footage of them versus Upset and Ignite when they had the Ezreal Thresh against the Alistar Kai'Sa. So Mickey and Perkz on the losing of that matchup, they kind of smashed Upset and Ignite. So now I'm like, oh, kill that point. I actually think Perkz and Mickey are the best performing bot lane right now.
And it's hard to say, right, because you're grasping at straws to find these weaknesses. When you have Wonder, when you have Jankos, Caps, Perkz, Mickey, every single player outperforming their competition, stomping a lot of these individual lanes. The worst they've ever really done is gone even, it feels like. So a terrifying team to be certain. Now, when we look internationally, this is the big question. Of course, it's always hard to compare internationally, different metas, different leagues, different teams. But one thing we can look at is dominance. G2 absolutely dominating the LEC right now. When we look at a team like Griffin, when we look at teams in the LPL, very contested there at the top of the standings, Is this the most dominant team in any league?
Let's be clear how this segment came about. We were all sitting in a boardroom and we're like, okay, how do we make how do we keep selling this team? They keep winning. Okay, I look macro, look international. Will they just win MSI? And frankly, I watch a lot of LPL. I watch a lot of LCK. There's still not the same gap between a team like G2 and the rest of the league comparatively to globally. Yes, Griffin are still terrifying. Invictus Gaming are still strong, but it feels a lot closer. These teams are dropping games.
And obviously, as you already said, Drakos, it's difficult to make that comparison, but I still love having the conversation because it just builds so much excitement. And when I look at this G2 squad, they haven't dropped a game. Griffin, you have. I saw that game versus Sandbox. So immediately you're already saying, G2 looking like the favorites coming in. If they can win the split MSI, they're looking great. But honestly, for me, what separates them from Griffin is that Griffin don't have the same difference in every single member against the rest of the league that G2 do. They seem to have the 5 best European players, whereas Griffin, there are debates if top, maybe support, could be challenged.
And of time past, you know, normally you would say you're just going to give it to LCK, that you think that they just have the better talent in every single role, but this last World showed us that Western players can compete with the best in their positions. KT was at that tournament, so I don't think you automatically give it to Griffin, that if they try to skill check G2, that's free.
Absolutely not. But as we focus back in on the LEC, yesterday we released a new edition in our Game Day series featuring G2 superstar Caps. Let's check it out.
Growing up, I've always watched my brother play. He inspired me to start playing video games myself and get good at them because I obviously want to beat him. He ended up actually going pro in Dota.
Invictus Gaming are your 2018 World Champions!
I mean, the World Tour was really frustrating. Obviously, we went really far, but I want to win, right? And I want to win the final. But not only do I want to win, I also want to feel like I'm the best team. I think the biggest problem we had was personality clash, which basically meant even if we won, the process was just not good. Going into 2019, I have a lot of experience from the past years. I've learned a lot. I know what it takes to win. I've been at the very top, both in EU and in the world. I have very strong expectations from us, but at the same time, I don't want to let them ruin my view on my teammates. I want to make us the best, not me, but all of us. A lot of the problems we had in Fnatic, we don't have in G2, and we're very, very mindful of like avoiding those problems. I think me and Perks, both of us are very trolly. I think that's like a very common theme with our whole team. As soon as you break the friend bond and you just become like teammates, it gets really toxic.
If you're Caps, if you're this G2 lineup, then there's just something a little extra there for you going toe-to-toe with this Fnatic squad.
Going on stage against like my old team, I was thinking about them because like I know the players and I don't just think of them as I might think of a lot of other players. But once I got into the game and once I saw the draft, I was feeling a lot more confident. This is what we've been practicing against for so long. It's sure sometimes I would think, oh, I really need to kill this guy. It was definitely like in the back of our mind that we need to not throw it.
If you guys can get me killed, I would be happy. Okay, yeah, I'll try.
Just coming as well. Oh, right through the wall. Sleepy Trouble bubble! Now he dashes forward Protobelt, uses the ulti, insta-cleanse from Caps, Paddle Store onto Nemesis!
Oh, no, the solo ball, that was really personal. Yeah, I wouldn't go for that normally.
Ladies and gentlemen, if G2 can finish this game in the next 2.5 minutes, they will set the fastest win of the 2019 season in Europe. The fastest win of spring, G2 destroy Fnatic!
Winning. It felt really good, but it also felt kind of bad. With the Fnatic players, I actually like know them. I obviously know how they feel when they lose, right? So it's not just winning another solo queue game. It's winning against actual humans, and you know how they're gonna react to this. You know how they're gonna go backstage, and you know how they're gonna feel, right? And it's not nice. But I think this is what they need. What they were doing was not optimal, and that's why I left. And I hope now that it really shows that they're gonna change it all around. Yeah, I mean, obviously I just want to win Worlds, right? And I win EU and win everything. I just want to prove myself, prove that I'm a good mid laner. I want to prove that we're a good team. I mean, I think hard work is like the most important thing if you want to go pro. It's about putting in the effort. And it's not just about your own performance, it's about the team performance. So it's important that you get a really good bond with your team. It's important that you spend time with your team, get to know them. Only then you will have each other's back when it really comes down to it. That's why I'm so happy now in G2, because we are really trying our hardest. Even if we weren't winning, I would have confidence that one day it's going to show up.
Well, While undisputed that Caps is the strongest player in Europe, I want to take a moment and examine 3 players to watch in the upcoming second round robin that are sure to shake up the competition and the race for playoffs. Now, first up is Nemesis. In the last 3 games, this rookie mid laner has finally started to find his groove with Fnatic, taking high-impact champions like Syndra and Lissandra. For me, it was really how he fit into Fnatic's team fighting that left an impression, constantly on time to the fight and zoning appropriately to create space for Reckless to thrive. While still not the star of the team, Nemesis' improvements shouldn't go unnoticed and in their impact for the team's possible run for playoffs. Now, while Nemesis is a supporting actor to Fnatic, Selfmade is the star of SK, taking 100% of their MVP rankings. Selfmade currently sits on top of the MVP board with only 4 wins. While not the best jungler in the LEC, he is the most important and has come swinging into the LEC, showing a high mechanical ceiling and crisp pathing. Selfmade is smart and can easily turn a winning lane into a winning map, never missing an opportunity to punish any advantage or information he gathers on the map, elevating SK into possible playoff contenders. And finally, it's Cold. After a rocky start, Origin are hitting their stride, cleaning up isolated deaths and refining their draft strategies. Where Origin once looked lost and indecisive, they now look calculated, with Cold being the biggest individual improvement. With smoother pathing and a diverse champion pool, Cold is the backbone to Origin's 4-game winning streak. His Gragas in particular looked worlds different to their start, pulling the trigger at the right moment to outplay his opponents and the map. Now, that said, 2 players with a long-standing rivalry are Upset and Attila, who are facing off later tonight in our match of the day.
The very first time I faced off versus Attila in an official match was Challenger Series, and we 2-0'd them in the regular season. Before, I just played with him in solo queue, but I didn't really think he would be like a pro player, because he was honestly really bad.
Upset was coming to the league like really overrated. On Spring Split he choked really hard, that's what he did.
I wouldn't really call it a rivalry, because I would rather have a rivalry with a better player.
Jizuke down, now Upset can just open up hell! Mystic shot after Mystic shot lands! And Shao could come out absolutely dominating! This is the Empire!
He doesn't really use his brain too much when playing.
Brainless, I mean...
So I don't really respect his playstyle too much.
I guess you can call me that because he might have traumas from the past, right? When he was like getting bullied under turret.
He talks a bit too much for his skill, I think. He's barely top 5 AD carry right now.
Some people call me cocky, I call it confidence. Some people call Upset calm and coordinated, I call him coward.
I kind of feel like Attila has been jealous of me for quite some time.
I'm not jealous at all. Why will I be jealous of someone who's worse than me?
Beating someone in regular season is nice, but beating them in the semi-finals was like a huge match.
It's a trade back, 1-for-1. All of a sudden, Attila are trying to wreck Vitality. The Guardian Angel comes back up. Schalke have won the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it must felt really good to knock us out on the semi-finals. Almost as good as when they lost and we qualified to World Championship.
Upset the last man standing. G2 Esports will not be denied.
It feels really nice to crush someone, but obviously like losing like this when it's really important to you still feels really bad, and I kind of felt bad for him, but I kind of didn't.
He got lucky that our team didn't perform back then. Now he's just not lucky anymore. Like, it's 2019, it's different year and different goals for us. Like last year we got to the World Championship, we did it. This year we have Moldy, we're going ham.
This is the Empire!
My God. Calm, collected, I call it coward. Shots fired on both sides. I'm absolutely loving it.
I can't wait for this matchup later in the day. I mean, we've got to be honest. Attila's been struggling over the last few weeks. Upset's been on fire. Right now on paper, this looks like a one-sided matchup, but every time these 2 boys go at it, you know it's going to be an explosive bot lane.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that you know that Attila is going to look for those plays, that it doesn't matter if he's currently sitting in a slump, that if he sees his opportunity, if he smells blood in the water, he's going to take a bite.
And that's what I'm excited to find out, because, of course, to get a player perspective on the action, you can check out our POV stream with Upset over at twitch.tv/RiotGames2. You get your first-hand Upset perspective look into that rivalry, and I just want to see them kill each other in lane. Yes, please. Well, Schalke and No Fear have had a massive start to the season, but in the shadows lurks a mystery so big that it's going to send shockwaves through the LEC. Let's leave it to our favorite detectives to uncover it.
A month has passed since we last forayed into the mysteries behind the LEC. We have lurked in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to reveal ourselves, to decipher the indecipherable. Today, we once again will dive into the depths of mystery and bring forth a gleaming pearl of knowledge. Prepare yourselves for the extravagant adventures of Vedius and Vedius.
Hello, what ho, my fine fellows, and what ho, dear Leviticus Medicus. How goes your medical practice?
Oh, surprisingly poorly, my fine fellow. There's a shockingly low demand for ear replacements these days.
Well, anyway, enough of that. We are here to solve a case. Here we have a missive from a concerned young man.
It says, Dearest Detective of the Vedius and Dr. Medius, I hope my letter finds you well. Recently, my team and I have fallen upon hard times. Our youngest son was lost to us, and my partner in crime, one Dylan Falco, abandoned us for another team. Now, can you please find out how Mr. Dylan Falco has stolen his success from my team? Signed with a tear, Young Buck.
Poor young buck. Now, a confounding mystery to be sure, but not one that I, Detective the Vedius, could not solve.
Oh, with my help, of course.
I mean, I suppose. Anyway, let us dive into the man's history and begin with Exhibit 1, the Immortals.
Ooh, I've heard tell of these so-called Immortals, but since then they have fallen into shadow and dust.
Yes, what do you see here? Tell me.
It looks a little bit like a Spartan helmet.
Indeed, quite right. You're learning, Leviticus Medicus. Dylan Falco searched for knowledge and found great wisdom in the teachings of the Spartans, and in particular, their god Athena.
Athena, you say? The god of arts and crafts. Why would Dylan Falco want to do papier-mâché?
I would agree with you, Medius, but then we'd both be wrong. Athena is the goddess of war and strategy. Dylan yearned for her favor, and for a short while, she granted him wisdom.
But Dylan Falco left the Immortals. Why would he leave a god's favor?
Dylan yearned for more. He yearned for more glory, more power. And Athena rejected him, for he was just a mere man.
I'm pretty sure he left because he just wanted to join Fnatic.
If that were the case, then I wouldn't be here, you nincompoop. Let me present Exhibit B. What do you see here?
It's the logo of Fnatic.
Indeed, but what does the logo mean?
I'm pretty sure it's meant to be the letters of the name. You have an F, you have an N, you have an A, you have a T.
Every day, I am more jealous of people who have not met you. This is obviously drawing inspiration from Chinese mythology. Dylan Falco joined Fnatic in search of another deity to help him wreak vengeance upon Athena.
Vedius, this is ludicrous. Dylan Falco joined Fnatic because they are one of the best teams in Europe, and he was sure they could succeed.
Dylan clearly had something much more nefarious in mind. He consulted King Yan, the Chinese king of death. He asked King Yan for the notebook in which he writes his judgments for those that have died.
So Dylan had power over those who lived and died on Summoner's Rift in his book, where he could write his notes. A death notebook, perhaps.
Indeed, Dr. Medicus. And as team after team fell before Fnatic, Dylan grew more and more powerful, soon ascending to the might and majesty of a god. But it was not enough.
It was not enough? How can it not be enough, Detective Vedius? How can one have the power of a god and still want more?
Well, you see, Fnatic fell before Invictus Gaming, and Dylan decided that it wasn't enough anymore. He wanted to reach the top, something so powerful that it would push him beyond that of a god.
Something more powerful than a god? Vedius, be serious.
Something that millions of people worldwide worship and adore, something that draws everything and everyone together. What unifying force could combine them all?
Something that brings people together, that unites us, something majestic, something beautiful. It has to be friendship.
It's football, obviously.
Football, yes. Yes, football, indeed, yes.
And with that, my work here is done.
Yes, football, more powerful than a god. Of course, it's football. It's so obvious. We have solved another of the greatest mysteries of the LEC. For now, we will melt again into the shadows.
This guy's a genius. That makes so much sense. Like, the power of football, everyone investing, if you all believe, you can become greater than a god.
Yeah, Medic did a great job. I agree. It was really fantastic. Medius, truly a brilliant doctor. I agree. The rest of it was questionable. But we're going to see what happens on the Rift today as we start the second round robin of the LEC Spring Split. And if the power of the death, I don't even know how to. Like, what the heck?
It's a notebook of death.
A notebook of death. Just to be clear.
Some may call it a
Don't
death
say
note.
it in another order. We might border on.
We don't have that sponsor. Go.
So looking at the schedule today, though, of course, a couple important matches. Dylan Falco and his newly found power of football will be going toe-to-toe with Vitality, as you mentioned earlier. But there's also some exciting games. End of the day, G2 versus Origin. That's what I'm pretty hyped about.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game. I'm very excited, but we've got to talk about predictions, Drakos.
Hard to say.
Is it?
It's almost like you have text that you could follow that would help you talking about the prediction.
I didn't hear you.
You can't see, but the prompter's taunting him.
I don't need this. Before the split, everyone talked about Vedius and Frosk and the new Fearful Stats bot as favorites in the race for Superior Analysts. Well, so far, me and the fans are silencing the experts with some outstanding predictions. Now, Vedius, you will note that you and Stats bots have predicted the same thing.
We have.
You realize you are siding with a vacuum cleaner.
Normally, I don't side with the Stats bot, but today I'm taking a gamble. I've fallen behind a little bit, and I think that SK could edge over Fnatic
Vedius,
today. So.
He got stuck underneath a couch today.
I still believe
trying to find that prediction.
I believe in the Stats bot.
Absolute faith. Nothing else on your
and
analytical.
SK, I mean, I believe in SK too.
That's
why I
important,
voted
too. That's
for
good.
them.
It's good because that one came second on the list, Vedius. Well, then tonight's LEC postgame lobby, we're going to be answering your questions on the first half of the spring split. Send them in using the hashtag #PingTheLobby. We're also going to be joined by Deficio and potentially others. I'll leave that one mysterious, so be sure to check it out. Yeah, I know. Deficio, you excited? Vedius?
No.
You miss him?
It's going to be like, spoiler alert, there were no others.
I would guess that he'd be losing in predictions right now.
I believe he might be.
He
doesn't like to tweet them out publicly because he knows he would suck.
Ooh, tough life, because he knows he would suck. All right, well, our first game of the day is between the rising SK and Fnatic. Now, this is a monumental matchup in the race for playoffs. And for more, let's hear from SK's new coach.
Thank you very much, Drakos. Laure here, joined by BrokenShard ahead of their game today against Fnatic. Thank you for joining me. We know you've been on the scene for a while now, and while we didn't see you for a long time on the big stage, do you think you have what it takes to coach SK and make SK a playoff team?
I mean, that's a very complicated question because, of course, I don't want to say that I'm going to be the best coach, but I think that the players have what it takes to be a playoff material team, and all it's going to take for me is to continue working hard and making sure that we can translate our dominance in scrims to stage and making sure that we stay ahead of the curve on meta. I was coaching the academy team before I came to SK, and of course it made sense to transfer me because the academy team is doing so well. I think that we're going to surprise a lot of people because the potential of this team is very high.
And I was talking to Selfmade yesterday after his game. He was really not happy with his performance on Lee Sin. I don't know if it was self-confidence or being humble, but do you think SK right now lacks self-confidence? And what is the biggest challenge in coaching the team right now?
So in regards to Selfmade's performance yesterday, I think it's just because the way he is as a player, as a person and a player, is a perfectionist. He's had quite insane Lee Sin performances all week in scrims. So if he doesn't perform at that same level, then he could say, I could do better. And I think that's a really good mindset to have. I would say that confidence on stage is something that the team was struggling with for the past few weeks. But that was our main focus pretty much all of this week, was just to make sure that we're coming on stage confident and ready to play our game as best as we could. And yesterday, despite him feeling that he didn't play well, I thought that it was a very good win against Vitality. A really big win for us because Vitality is a top team in the league. So it was really nice that we could show that we can play at that level. Now, the biggest challenges about coaching SK, well, so far I haven't really felt like there was a big challenge. At least I haven't encountered one yet because we had a really good week of practice. We're winning a lot of our scrims, so it's easy to be on a winning team. Yeah. It's easy to win, but it's not easy to lose. I think the biggest challenge is remaining calm and progressive if we don't have such successful weeks of practice, and making sure to stay positive all throughout.
How do you make that happen as a coach?
Have a positive mindset. Remind everybody that it's all about a process, and no matter how well you play at the beginning, it's all about how you play at the end. Even if we're mid-split, we just need to continue progressing upwards.
Then let's hope you have this mindset today, because you will be facing Fnatic again. Now, we know how things went the last time, almost a 2-0 with the remake. They picked up an interesting win against Splice yesterday, a needed one, I would say. Talk me through the prep with the players to go into this match today.
So we were really happy to have side selection this time. We beat them last time without side selection pretty much twice. They beat them, actually. I wasn't really a part of that. don't want to take credit away from them for doing such an excellent job. I think we have a very good grasp of what we want to play today, and we also have a good idea of what Fnatic wants to play. The thing about Fnatic is that even when they're not playing well, they're still Fnatic. They're always a good team. Their players make some mistakes and are easily exploitable in some of the games that we saw, but they're still a good team. So we put a lot of work in our prep for them, actually even more than the Vitality game that we prepped for this game. And we're excited to show what we have in store. I think we have a really good shot of winning today.
Well, I wish you good luck on this one. Thank you for joining me.
No problem, thank you.
For more on today, let's send it back to Drakos.
Thank you very much, Laure. Of course, good to hear from BrokenShard, and good found for your predictions. BrokenShard feeling confident. He says winning's the easy part, losing will be the struggle. Well, SKR, they're coming off a massive win against Vitality yesterday. We saw it. They're going to look to take down Fnatic today. You heard some of BrokenShard's insight, but I think from all of us, this was an incredibly dominant performance from SK, and it was a huge level up, it feels like, in terms of performance.
That man that we often talk about, the one who's leading in player of the games, got shut down in the early game, and they were still able to find early leads. They managed to play through it, and I just felt like I saw a lot more of the confidence that we heard from BrokenShard, and the fact that they played much more around certain laners, and I love the fact that we got to see more from their bot lane in terms of crown shot and dreams.
Yeah, and for me it was the fact that those laners were actually already winning the lanes or stepping up and trying to contest 1v1, 2v2, and dreams in particular was the big difference maker for me. Normally when you see the Alistar locked in, you sacrifice a lot of your 2v2 potential. He can lose out to a lot of champions like the Thresh, but dreams made it work in the lane phase and then got to that mid-game, late-game, high-impact zone that Alistar's love to thrive.
And overall, it was not just Dreams that was stepping up. You talked about some of the other laners as well, but the guy that I really want to put a spotlight on as we watch this back half of this replay play out is that Jinx player on your screen. That is Crown Shot. Completely transformed from his first few weeks where he was struggling, where he was a liability. This man feels like a brand new player on stage.
Yeah, I had the chance to sit down with BrokenShard, talk to him over lunch, and he was talking specifically about Crown Shot's confidence as well. You know, going from being a standout player in the Spanish league and being considered underneath Jessica, Crown Shot just needs to have faith in himself and bring that to the LEC stage, and with Crit Marksman, you're starting to see more of that confidence pick up.
Yeah, I think that he seems to be in his comfort zone right now. The things like the Lucians and the Ezreals, he couldn't have the same level of performance. We only have to look back a few weeks to remind ourselves of that extremely poor Ezreal performance that cost them a game. Now on the Jinx, not only is he better in lane, they have a lane that they can play around, and he just seems like a completely different player. So I'm excited to see how he can stack up against our big boy Reckless.
And absolutely, that's what we have to talk about, because anytime we talk about a rising AD carry, a matchup that you always keep your eyes on is Reckless. Very often, you know, he's touted as one of the all-time greats for AD carries. This is going to be a huge challenge for Crown Shot, because yes, the patch has been good for Crown Shot, but surprise, surprise, it's also been damn good for Reckless.
Yeah, you only have to look at his performance yesterday. The stats speak for themselves. Reckless definitely seems to be back in a zone that he is comfortable on, and for Fnatic, this is really important, because for them to succeed, they need that core member to succeed.
But I also think of Reckless as a team-fighting AD carry, and it wasn't just about him finding his comfort champions on those crit ADCs. It was also the fact that guys like Broxa and Nemesis stepped up. Collectively, the team of Fnatic is making huge growth developments, and that's why they look so impressive to me.
And when we look back across this, yes, Fnatic are getting better, SK are getting better as well, but when we look at the history of this matchup, you heard BrokenShard touch on it, SK basically beat Fnatic twice in week 1. They have side selection as well, so now they have another advantage coming into this matchup. But when we look at it, Vedius, you're the member siding with SK. You touched on it briefly earlier, so I want to hear more why you still have so much confidence in this SK lineup.
So for me, what I saw from Fnatic yesterday was, yes, they invested a double teleport into the bot lane to get their bot lane ahead, and they wanted to play very much around Reckless. But Splyce never punished it. Splyce failed to do anything to stop Fnatic from snowballing that early game. And when I compare that to how SK played against Vitality, even put behind, they were relentless. They were looking for fights. They were looking for trades. And so I just feel like that with that level of confidence, that's going to be enough to challenge Fnatic and find a win.
For me, I think the SK looked a bit boosted in their win against Vitality because Vitality were playing so poorly. It was a slumping performance from Attila and Jacktroll. Yes, it was much crisper and cleaner in terms of everyone stepping up, but it was also Attila putting on his best SK performance and getting caught out in that mid game. So I still feel that Fnatic's victory looked a lot cleaner.
But we're going to find out who's going to come out on top. One win separating these teams in the standing. It is time to kick off today's action with an EU Classic, SK versus Fnatic. Let's hit the Rift.